Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It is Tuesday, the 9th of August, 2022. Welcome to Hindsight, where we learn to be a better trader. We have traded so much today, so many stock tickers, and not all of them went well. So what I want to cover is some lessons learned along with some key decision making that I think is really important for just trading in general. Some real key basics. And this stuff isn't new. So everything that I've done today is on my videos, my stock tip videos, my favorite setups, right? These are real sort of rinse and repeat things that I want to go over. Now, the first thing I want to go over is CXO. We're going to open up the daily chart. Excuse me. So we've got the daily chart here, and lithium's been on a pump the last few days because of what's been happening in the US. Something to do with lithium, Tesla, and basically the Congress or the House is passing some sort of bill for renewable energy, and that sort of involves lithium and Tesla and so on and so forth. So what we have here is just an absolute monster of a breakout. You can see it's just been stonking from 80 cents to $1.50 today. And I took a short on this one, and this comes down to the timing play. Right, so if you recall in my video, sorry, I can't remember which video, I've made so fucking many, but I'm sure it's in my tip videos or my favorite setup videos. And this is about stock timing. When a stock rallies, just goes stonky stonk and then consolidates, or it stonks and then consolidates for a long time. It doesn't matter which one it is. There's a 2:30 timing. Now, of course, this isn't perfect, and of course, it can go plus minus 15 minutes or whatever, but the idea is at 2:30, there's a fade. And in this case, I started shorting from 148, 147 and a half, 147, and kept shorting on this candle here, expecting it to fail effectively, right? This is, at this timing, this was just after 2 o'clock, and got the shorts all throughout here. And it just consolidated, and I just put my short, had a bit of a trend line here. This is a pretty insignificant trend line, but basically I didn't want new highs, which is about 51 cents or 50 and a half cents. So I set a stop loss and I walked away because I didn't want to watch this. This is afternoon trading. It's just going to be a fade. So I went for a run. So set my stop losses and just went for a run. And then I assumed that I could just get on my phone because these rallies or these dumps tend to last for about anywhere from an hour to an hour and a half. The other thing that also is very typical of an afternoon fade is this little bounce. Very typical. Very rarely does it just sell off and close at the lows on this kind of play, this sort of setup. It has a bounce, and it usually happens 3 to 3:30. And then the last half hour or so, 45 minutes, it just does a little bit of a bounce. So I went for a run, tried to log in. I was on my phone around this time, and I just forgot my password. I've changed my password so many times, and I've had about 8 different combinations, and I've tried resetting my password as well, by the way, and all my combinations are gone. I've got to come up with another couple of combinations because it's just done my head in. So I pretty much sped back home and just closed it out at 38 and a half. So I could have got a little bit better, but overall I'm happy with the trade. Set my stop loss, and sometimes some of my best trades can be where there's a setup and I just put the risk to reward in, right? The risk was about 2.5 cents, and that was it, and just walk away. You know, this thing's been stonking for multiple days, and that's it. So you can even see the 2:30 fade here. It doesn't really do much, but in this case, it's still very bullish. But it was going to come off sometime soon because this rally is unsustainable on the back of nothing. And also we have a nice volume sort of blow off, if you want to call it that. And we've also sort of hit levels here. And it kind of doesn't make sense to just FOMO rally like that. So this was a really, really, really nice afternoon setup for the 2:30 fade, even though the fade came across at like 250, I think it was. Yeah, so right before 3 o'clock, the fade sort of kicked in. You can see it sort of consolidated really tight in a range. So that was like a stellar trade. Put on some pretty good size for that one. I'm very happy with how that worked out. And the next trade we have is MP1. Now this one, oh, this one was really, really clean on the technicals. The order book was choppy, but the technicals was beautiful. Now this happened by coincidence and I wasn't paying attention, but this was the monthly VWAP. And I'm not actually working with the monthly VWAP. I've just got it up out of pure curiosity at this stage. So what we have is this candle here, this green candle that really stonked to the upside. That was a bit of a surprise candle. And, you know, it was just a short for me on the second candle. Just shorting, just adding on. It was a really nice looking book. It sort of hits this level. It wicks down and it comes back up. And I was like, okay, this is a little bit unusual to have a wick like this. I mean, it's fine. It can probably just go up a little bit and then come back down. That was kind of my plan for the setup. I didn't really pay attention to the news, so I don't particularly care. I pay attention to price action, not so much news when it comes to financials. And then this candle came along and just monstered to the upside. So if I bring up VWAP, you can see exactly just how monstrous this candle was. VWAP is here. I had my tickets ready to get a short. I wasn't in the order book. I was just getting ready. And once it hit this point here, it was cover and go long. And my sort of largest parcel was around 808 and 809, which is really unfortunate because then I started seeing it dip down. And of course, this should have been my add-on point, but I was kind of just a little bit frozen in my position. I was like, I probably went too heavy at these levels here. Just because of the strength of the candle. You know, that size might not look too big, but it absolutely monstered to the upside. So I probably went a little bit too heavy here. I should have waited for the pullback towards VWAP, which usually comes, you know, once you break VWAP, the retest of VWAP is pretty common. So yeah, I guess there was some inefficiencies with the trade here, but I was all about closing the short and covering and getting long as soon as possible. And I think I might have just been a little bit too slow, a little bit too eager. It felt like it was going to just crack above this horizontal here. And, you know, I probably got a little bit of the FOMO in me, but at least I recognized just the shift in sentiment, the shift in the stock, and acknowledged that this, while that might be a very brief retest and good for a short level, I acknowledge that this entire move was just a reversal. Like, this is not normal. This is close the short straight away, go long, and that's exactly what I did, and I'm very happy, at least with the response. The entries could be a little bit better, but this candle, very uncommon. So that's a lesson learned for next time, and I just let it go. I let it go to the upside. I wanted to get out in front of $9. I was just scaling out slowly. I was a little bit, how do I put it? I was a little bit loose in terms of my exits. You know, I was kind of letting it go. I wanted a 10:30 timing, but it sort of lost momentum and was pulling back, and I wanted everything out by pretty much this candle here. And I was thinking maybe VWAP retest, or maybe there's some sort of level, and I couldn't really see anything. So what I ended up doing was going long here on this candle. It sort of based for a little bit, did a bit of a pop on volume here, and that was enough to just get my feet wet again to the upside and just take a little bit of a trade, a little bit of a swing to the upside. And it came back down. Sorry, let me just get rid of this. And this is like, I normally don't do trend lines because trend lines are a bit iffy, right? They're not as reliable as horizontals, I find. So horizontal in this case being something like this. But for me, I wanted to find any excuse to add long. You know, after this reversal here, that's just screaming long, right? Breaking this range here, this horizontal range, and just doing it with such strength and conviction, that to me was, okay, do not find a short position. The short's over. This was the opportunity for the bears to make something of MP1. So the mindset that I have now is find a long wherever you can, and that long was 860, which was at this level here. Now, like I said before, I'm not fond of trend lines anywhere near as much as support, horizontal support and resistance. So I was also looking for a level here at around 850. But I took my 860 as well, so I added on. So I got the position here. sorry, I can't remember the exact price, but just assume 861, I guess the top end of this candle. Pop, re-add on this trend line, 860, and just let it go. Let it go. Take a little bit off at 890 and above 890 as it sort of hits this horizontal here, this level, because I had no real targets, right? To me, this is a big range for the day, and I had no particular targets at all. And then it comes off, and this same trend line, you know, this trend line not so relevant anymore, I don't think, but I kind of use it as a basis behind finding an excuse to buy more. So there's a horizontal here. And of course, there is a horizontal here as well, whether it's this peak, and you can see it sort of ranges at this level. And that was just another excuse for me to buy at 882. Just another excuse. Ended up selling out very shortly afterwards. I think it was 892 or something like that. The price action just wasn't very strong, and I got bored of it, to be honest. So either way, I'm still very, very stoked at the end of the day of how this played out. I ended up having a target that I called out at 920, but of course, you know, it's one thing to have a target, it's another thing to take it there. But either way, I'm really stoked with just how MP1 traded. I'm really, really happy with myself on this one. If we look at CRN, now this one I ended up taking long. I think it was match. I'm pretty sure it was match because the financials looked so good. I think they went from like, I can't remember the exact number. Something like negative 18 mil EBITDA to positive 500 mil. I mean, don't quote me on that, but this is just off the top of my head. Like a huge, huge swing in the financials. And if we open up the daily chart as well, huge gap up, retest. I guess that also hit the monthly VWAP. You know, I might be onto something here. You know, I'm just paying attention to the monthly VWAP out of curiosity more than anything. So yeah, a big pullback, and the order book was fairly nasty, and it was just a matter of breaking VWAP. Now I got onto this pretty late, as you can see. I just monstered through VWAP without an issue, so swinging back to the upside. But my trade was, if I get rid of VWAP, sorry, and my order was the break and retest. Buying the retest and just taking it out at 163. Now this target of 163, I think was luck more than anything. I was looking at the order book, I was looking at the buying strength and how it was sort of tapering off. And I was thinking I could just squeeze into 163. So I ended up getting filled at 163. That's not me being a genius. That's more me being lucky more than anything. I was sort of weighing in the tapering off of volumes and seeing how much I could squeeze out of this stock from around 159. So really happy to get the absolute top. It's a very rare situation for me to get something that's at the top like that. So real happy with that. Kind of surprised it didn't actually do better, but it is what it is. I left it alone, took my trade, was really happy with it. MGA, didn't end up taking 10.5. This was a news announcement regarding a $3 million or $3.5 million company that was starting to look for rock chip samples, right? That is the dumbest news announcement of all time. It's not that they've got rock chip samples, but they're looking for it. So, you know, a very meaningless announcement, but lithium is hot, so don't fuck with the sector. But there was nothing in the book, nothing in support. So I couldn't take 10.5. I should have, maybe, in hindsight. In hindsight, I really do think that I should have just taken it, because we'll look later on at ARN. We took that one on match and sort of pushed it because it was also a lithium announcement from the top of my head. But yeah, so that I really probably should have taken some at 10.5. Ended up taking some at 12 and 12.5. And sort of pushing the stock up a little bit. Queued up at 14.5, but didn't get it. So about 60k went through, or I think it was 70k went through, 40k or 30k was remaining, and then all the other orders above 14.5 were me. So I had a bunch of orders like 2k, 5k, 2k, 3k, or whatever. There was like 8 orders or something like that. I just kept amending my ticket. So every time I amend my ticket, it adds on another order. So for example, if you have 5,000 shares selling at 14.5, you amend your ticket to 10,000, there'll be 2 lots of 5,000. So it won't be 10,000, it'll be 2 lots. So if you amend and keep amending, it adds multiple orders. So very unfortunate. I ended up hitting out at 12 or 12.5. I can't remember exactly. Either way, it was a shitty trade. It was quite frustrating. I mean, it was peanuts in terms of size because you can't really go on size on this thing. You can see the orders were very thin. So I was just merely playing the fact that it was a micro cap with, I was just pushing some lines, right? Pushing some lines, breaking some lines, causing some momentum on news announcement that probably shouldn't have even moved, to be honest. But it is what it is. And we ended up going to LKE. This one was really unfortunate. Ended up queuing up at, I think I ended up buying at 128 and 128.5 and getting stopped out at 127, which in hindsight was actually just dumb. Yeah, there was nothing good about that trade. Yeah, actually that 128 I'm pretty sure was more like, it was over here. 128, 128.5, and then just sold out at 127. It just, I don't know. To me, it felt like that could be part of the afternoon fade and might come a little bit sooner. That was just really unfortunate. I think I should have just waited. Double bottoming this late in the afternoon usually doesn't yield good results. So what I wanted was just to move up, at least a retest here, a little bit of a pullback, and then a rally to the upside. What I didn't want was lower highs to be formed here and then retest, right? Retesting this low. It usually doesn't yield good results, especially when LKE is looking this good on the chart, right? It's just stonking to the upside. And it's like, it's got to give eventually. And there were no shorts on it. So I probably should have taken that into consideration as well. Either way, in hindsight, that was not a good trade. I think my justification was there, but the stop loss really should be, in my opinion, a stop in such a way that it's definitely wrong. So 127 is not definitely wrong. 126 is probably considered definitely wrong. So I think that was probably a more appropriate stop loss, but I wanted to keep things tight. I just didn't want to give back for the day. Because I have a bad habit of afternoon trading and giving back profits, and that was going to happen on this, I think. So I ended up just missing out on a really good push to the upside. And you can see here, perfect example of a bit of a fake out here, right? So you've got a nice level, super high volume, sell-off straight through support, and then it ends up actually holding and faking out, which is quite impressive. So this would have definitely stopped me out if I was back on LKE, but I sort of stopped trading it because I was on CXO short, and I took the CXO short instead of LKE because LKE didn't have any available. TMR, this one was really fascinating. I think I had like 500 grams a ton of gold, but it was like 0.4 meters, and I had 3 or 4 intercepts of that. Either way, in my opinion, it's just nothing. It really is a nothing announcement. We can see it ended up closing at 8.5. I'm honestly surprised it didn't push through to 11 cents. And I think fundamentally there's a reason for that. Fundamentally, it was just garbage. It was a bit of a fight, right? So you got a bit of a retest on VWAP here. But ultimately, this was one of the weirdest books I've seen in a long time. Like a long time. So there was a call out on Discord that this stock broke range. So straight away opened it up, ended up catching at 9, 9.1, 9.2, 9.3, 9.4. Just keep fucking buying the thing. That's my method for stocks that are sitting from, the high 7s to low 8s and make a push towards 10 cents. It's a magnet. It works so fucking often that it's practically free money, in my opinion. Not financial advice, because I'm not a financial advisor. Go fuck yourself. So yeah, it hits 10.5, but my exit was 9.6 because of this. The order book disappeared. Like, I'm talking, there might have been a few thousand shares between 9.1 cents and 9.6. All of a sudden, at this level here, on the way up, the order book on the bids just fucking disappeared. And I'm left with a decent amount of shares that I just can't market order out of because that would just be terrible. So what do? I queue up at 9.6 and it instantly gets murdered to 10 cents. Just straight fucking to 10. So that was pretty painful to see. This was holding really, really well. Let me bring up the volumes. Volumes were ultra high. Ultra high. This was churning volumes like no fucking tomorrow. So I actually suspected that this might hold because this dip here, 9.6, instantly came back up. So I started getting a position on the pullback again, a little bit at 9.7, a little bit at 9.8, and then just murdered the positions at 9.5, 9.4, 9.3, and 9.2. I helped the reload at 9.2 because 9.2 is my favorite pullback target. If you guys have watched my videos at all, you know I love a stock that rallies to 10, pulls back to 9.2. 9.2 is like, I don't know why it's the magic number. Don't ask me why. It just is. I think people see the value and they just start buying in. They're like, "Oh, we can buy and hold this level as like a psychological response, and then just start pushing again to the upside." So, ended up taking it at 9.2 and ended up selling it like 9.5. I think it was like this candle here or this candle here. I can't remember. But again, the order book messed me about. So the order book was really like suspicious. It was unusual is I guess the best word for it. Because what happened was someone steps up and line wipes the entire thing and pushes it to 10 cents. Like we're talking, I think it was this candle here where it went from 9.5 to 10. So someone stacked 9.5, line wiped 9.5, 9.6, 9.7, 9.8, and 9.9, and then stacked the book with 450k shares on the bid. It is borderline the most fucked up thing I've ever seen. So at this point, I'm thinking, this is going to push through 10, then push through 10.5, and then push through 11. So I kind of just watched it. I was curious to get in, maybe at 9.9, maybe at 9.8. I didn't actually end up taking any position. I just kept watching it, thinking maybe, you know what? This is the easy money. This is the easy money. Everything else afterwards is hard money. So I talked myself out of taking the trade. I was sitting in the book and I thought, no, fuck it. I have the worst history of giving back late in the afternoon, so I'm just gonna cancel my order and just chill and just watch the stock and maybe like learn something from it. I was super convinced this was going to push to 11, 5, or 12, just purely based on just the absolute mess of the order book. I have a sneaking suspicion that these orders that just absolutely monstered and line wiped everything were just dumb retailers with lots of money. I mean, I have no other answer. I have no other explanation for how this stock kept wiping up all the way to 10 cents. It's stupid. I think retailers saw the grades and thought they were onto some monstrous like Northern Star potential producer or something. I don't know how people think, man, but it's fucking weird. So fundamentally, I knew this was terrible, and that's ultimately what kept me out of the stock. Sure. It went from 9 million market cap to 15. That's fine. And it doesn't need to go any higher, right? It's a little bit of nuggets in the ground. ARN. This was, if I recall off the top of my head, was a lithium stock that said they drilled like 25 holes off the top of my head, and they hit in most holes a chunk of lithium pegmatites. Like a bunch of 5 to 20 meter hits or something like that. So that was good enough for me. Ended up buying on match, which was 24.5, and then 25. At least I think it was 24.5. I checked my orders. I think it opened at 12.27. So 24.5, 25, and then there was a wall. I can't remember if it was 25.5 or 26. There was a big wall, and I just started eating into it because I thought I may as well create the momentum on this thing. And then started selling at 27, 28. I think 28 was the bulk of my order that I ended up selling. And 28.5, I think. At one point, I was all the liquidity between 26.5 to 29. So all those orders were just mine. And people just kept buying into me because I guess they don't know what they're doing or looking at. And it was just all about creating that momentum. So that momentum, I can't remember how many shares it was, but I ate a good chunk of the wall here from 25 to 26. So that was a really good trade. That's my bread and butter. These micro cap stocks. For me, it's about acknowledging that there's a hot sector, and this announcement is so speculative that people don't know what to do with it, but they know the sector's hot, so they wait for momentum. And this is the problem. A lot of the times people wait for the momentum, whereas I'm the one creating the momentum in a sector that I know is hot because I know what retailers do, right? They need security. They need to feel coddled and safe, and they need the market to help them and hold their hand. They need to go, oh, there's a 100 and something K wall here of shares, which isn't that big. But when the bids have 20K and 15K or something behind it, you don't want to buy 100K worth. It'll make you feel uncomfortable, and people don't like feeling uncomfortable. So it was on me to start the momentum and then to sell into everyone else who followed, because my understanding of psychology of retail traders, well, I mean, I've been trading specky stocks, speculative micro caps for 8 years now. So this is my bread and butter. I know how people think. So this is how I traded it. And I hope that gives you a good insight into how things played out today. I think I don't think anything here is particularly new, except maybe a bit of insight into like ARN. But it wasn't like I was trading size. It was not like I was putting 30K on this stock in terms of dollar value. It was just I saw what there was on the book and I made the most of it. So it is what it is. And guys, I'll catch you in the next video. Thank ya.